بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه أما بعد يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وأحسن هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر أمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار ثم أما بعد. Inshallah ta'ala, continuing with the theme from yesterday's talk, we would like to read inshallah ta'ala some of the first opening points of benefit from the tremendous book Usul Sunnah by the Imam of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And inshallah ta'ala, we would like to focus in on actually the fifth point of this noble book, but we will read the points that are previous to it due to the tremendous benefit that is contained therein. So inshallah ta'ala, I advise all of the sisters inshallah to have with them a pen and have with them a piece of paper inshallah ta'ala. And we will try to be mindful and repeat things over and over so that you will have the ability inshallah ta'ala to write it down and have good notes inshallah. The Imam, he begins the book by saying, Usulu Sunnati indana, that the fundamental principles of the Sunnah with us. And this is something that is extremely important, inshallah ta'ala, that we know the principles of Ahl Sunnati wa Jama'ah, that we know what exactly is as Salafiyah. And it's not something that we speak about, but it's actually something that we know, something that we have certain knowledge about it. Because only if we have certain knowledge about it will we be able actually to implement it and to live in accordance to it. As the ulama, they always say, the one who is ignorant of a thing, then he will not be able to believe in that thing. So if we are to and truly be of those who are upon the Sunnah of Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wasallam, then we need to know exactly what is the Sunnah, and we need to concern ourselves with this. What is the Sunnah, so that I may be upon it. Naam. So inshallah ta'ala, you will find the likes of books like this. It comes and it enumerates for you, and it explains to you the aqidah and the minhaj of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So I advise myself and I advise everyone to make this book, inshallah ta'ala, a constant in their lives. Wallah alhamd, the book has been translated. So inshallah, we should read through it, and when we finish it, then we should begin it again. When we finish it, we should begin it again. And for those who have the ability to memorize it, then inshallah ta'ala, I advise and I encourage them to memorize the book, inshallah ta'ala. This way, your ilm, it will be with you wherever you may turn. It will be benefiting you, because it will not be stored inside of the innermost portion of the books, but rather it will be contained inside of your hearts, inshallah ta'ala. So wherever you are, it will be there present with you as well. The Imam begins and he says, Usulu Sunnati indana, ay indana as-Salafiyun, ay indana Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. The first point he says, أتمسك بما كان عليه أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said that the fundamental principles of the Sunnah with us is that we stick and we cling to that which the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam they were upon. Is that we are upon what they are upon. And this is the asl of the da'wah to Salafiyya. And this is what distinguishes the da'wah to Salafiyya from the da'wah of Ahlul Bid'ah. Because you will not find a Muslim except that he will connect himself to the Kitab and to the Sunnah. You will not find a single Muslim except that he will connect himself to the Kitab and to the Sunnah. So all of those 72 sects that will be in the hellfire from the Muslims, they all connect themselves to the Kitab and the Sunnah. They all claim with a false claim that they are followers of the Kitab and followers of the Sunnah. But the reality is that they are not. And the deciding factor, or the distinction between them and between those who are truly upon the Kitab and truly upon the Sunnah, is that those who are truly upon the Kitab and the Sunnah, they are upon the way of the Salaf of the Ummah. They are upon the way of the Salaf of the Ummah. And this is very important to understand, so that one, he will not become deceived if he hears an individual saying Kitab and Sunnah, thinking that if he says Kitab and Sunnah, then this is good. He must be upon the Kitab and Sunnah with the understanding of the Salaf of this Ummah. The same way in which they understood it, the same way in which they practiced and implemented it, this is what we too must be upon. And it is not possible that an individual can come from outside of the Salaf, can come hundreds of years later, can come and bring something that is good that wasn't present during the time of the Salaf. It is not possible. So you find that it is very truthful, the statement of the ulama when they say, إِن كَانَ فِيهِ خَيْرًا لَسَبَقُونَا إِلَيْهِ, that if this thing had truly been good, then the Salaf would have beaten us to it. Then the Salaf would have beaten us to it. And how truthful is the statement of the poet where he said, كُلُّ خَيْرٍ فِي اتِّبَاعٍ مَنْ سَلَفٍ وَكُلُّ شَرٍ فِي ابْتِدَاعٍ مَنْ خَلَفٍ. He said that all good is contained in following the Salaf, the pious predecessors. All good is found in following the Salaf, the pious predecessors. Whereas all evil is found in the innovation of those who came later. All evil is found in the innovation of those who came later, the Khalaf. So you find that Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, the thing that distinguishes them from all of these other firq, ad-dalala, from all of these other astray groups, is that they cling to the Kitab and to the Sunnah upon the understanding of the Salaf of this Ummah. And this is what we have been ordered to do in the book. As Allah Ta'ala, He says, وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبِعُوهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Allah Ta'ala, He says what translated means. And from those who came first and foremost, from the muhajirun, from those who made the pilgrimage, or the migration from Medina to Mecca, from Mecca to Medina, and from those who accepted them, the Ansar, from those who accepted them, those occupants of Medina who accepted and aided those muhajirun who came from Mecca, and those who follow them in good. Bila shak, the muhajirun and the Ansar, collectively they are the Sahaba. They are the Sahaba. And those who follow them in good. Those who follow them in good. Those who are upon their way in good. رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Allah Ta'ala says He is pleased with them and they are pleased with Him. So you find in this ayah, there is a clear proof of the obligation of following and being upon the way of the Salaf. Also Allah Ta'ala, He says in His noble book, وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِيهِ جَهَنَّمْ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. Allah Ta'ala, He says what translated means, and whoever contradicts the messenger after clear guidance had been shown to him, and he takes a way other than the way of the believers, وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and he takes a way other than the way of the believers, نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى, we will lead him to what he has left himself to, وَنُصْلِيهِ جَهَنَّمْ, and we will enter him into Jahannam. وَنُصْلِيهِ جَهَنَّمْ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. And what an evil of destinations, what an evil abode. So you will find, ya ibad, would you have understood it? Would you have understood the ayah if it had mentioned, وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِيهِ جَهَنَّمْ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. Would you have understood that had it been said, and whoever contradicts the messenger after clear guidance had come to him, we would turn him to what he had turned himself to and enter him into Jahannam, what an evil destination. Would you have understood that? Naam. The answer of course is naam. But is that what Allah Ta'ala said? La. That is not what Allah Ta'ala said. Allah Ta'ala who is Al-Alim, the all-knowing. Allah Ta'ala who is Al-Hakim, the all-wise, the one who puts everything inside of his proper place. Allah Ta'ala, He says, وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah Ta'ala, He says, and whoever contradicts the messenger after clear guidance had been shown to him, and he takes away other than the way of the believers. He takes away other than the way of the believers, other than the way of the Sahaba. He takes away other than the way of the Sahaba. And this is very important, ya ibad, because Allah Ta'ala, He points you to in this ayah, He shows you in this ayah that being upon the way of the believers is a must. It is an obligation. This is the way of guidance. This is the way that is right. This is the way that leads to Jannah, being upon their way. Naam, because they embodied the teachings of Al-Islam. They were the best ones who adhered to the deen of Al-Islam. They practiced as the Prophet ﷺ taught them exactly. And from that you find the Prophet ﷺ when he was asked, and who are the best of mankind? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, خَيْرُ النَّاسِ قَرْنِي ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ. The best of mankind is my generation. Meaning who? Meaning the Sahaba. The Sahaba. Then those who follow them. Then those who follow them. So how beautiful is the statement of the Salaf where they said that there would have been no superiority for the Tabi'un except that they found the superiority because they followed the Sahaba. That the Tabi'un would not have been special except that they followed the Sahaba. And because they followed the Sahaba, this is what makes them special. Likewise they say, and the Atba' Tabi'in, they would not have gained any type of superiority, nor would they have been special except for the fact that they had followed the Tabi'in who have followed the Sahaba. And this is what makes one special. This is what raises one inside of his ranks, his following and coinciding with the way of the Sahaba. So this is of extreme importance, ya ibad. And we also find examples from this inside of the Sunnah. As we find in the hadith of Irbad bin Sariyah, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, عَلَيْكُمْ بِالسُنَّةِ وَسُنَّةُ خُلَفَاءِ الرَّاشِدِينَ مِنْ بَعْدِي. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, it is upon you my sunnah. It is obligatory upon you my sunnah, and the sunnah of the rightly guided predecessors, the rightly guided khulafa. Upon you is my sunnah, and the sunnah of the rightly guided khulafa. Now would you have understood, ya ibad, if the Prophet ﷺ said, عَلَيْكُمْ بِالسُنَّةِ? Would this have been mafhum? Would this have been understandable to you? Naam, it would have been. But is that what Al-Mustafa said? Is that what the Prophet ﷺ said? La. Rather the Prophet ﷺ, the one who does not speak on his own accord, but rather he speaks from revelation. He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, عَلَيْكُمْ بِالسُنَّةِ وَسُنَّةَ خُلَفَاءِ الرَّاشِدِينَ الْمَهْدِيِّينَ الْآخِرِ الْحَدِيثِ. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, it is upon you, obligatory upon you, my sunnah, and the sunnah of the rightly guided khulafa. And this is because, ya ibad, you will find that the sunnah of the khulafa, it is the sunnah of Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam bi'aynih. It is the sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam exactly. There is no difference between the two. But it is important that this be mentioned, because this is the frame of reference that is distinguishing factor between Ahl Sunnah and between Ahl Bid'ah. Because Ahl Bid'ah, they do not want to connect themselves to the Sahaba. They refuse to connect themselves to the Sahaba. And the reason is clear. Is because if they say Kitab and they say Sunnah, and they prevent the Sahaba from entering into the equation, then now, who is there to police and to stop them when they give to the ayat a false interpretation? When they give to the ahadith a false and erroneous interpretation? Whereas, when they bring this if you say to them, we know this is incorrect, we know this is wrong, because this is not what the Sahaba said. This is not what Abdullah ibn Abbas said the ayah meant. This is not what Ibn Mas'ud said the ayah meant. This is not what Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu said the ayah meant. So therefore we know that your interpretation is false. Your understanding is not correct. When they come and they say, the Prophet ﷺ, he said this and this is what was intended by it, then we will know, this is not what was intended by it, because this is not what the Sahaba, those who were there present, the ones whom he said it to, this is not what they understood. So you find that in order for them to try to play their games and to play their trickery, they have to chase the people away from going back to the understanding of the Sahaba. So you have one of the Mubtadi'een, like he said to me, when I asked him, so upon whose understanding do you take the Kitab and the Sunnah? He said, we take the Kitab and the Sunnah upon the understanding of the Imams of the Hanafi Madhab, wa'iyadhu billah. Upon the understanding of the Imams of the Hanafi Madhab. I said, even if the understanding contradicts the understanding of the Sahaba, this Mubtadi', he said to me, I don't know nothing about the Sahaba, all I know about is Abu Hanifa, wa'iyadhu billah. Because verily this individual, he is a liar. He is not one who follows Abu Hanifa, as Abu Hanifa himself, he strived hard to be upon the way of Mustafa ﷺ and to coincide with the understanding of the Sahaba. Ala kulli hal, we will find that this is the motivation for the Mubtadi' when they refuse to connect themselves to the Sahaba, when they try to convince you that it is okay to bring in other understandings and the like. This is what they intend. They intend to misguide the people, so be warned and beware. So you find the great Imam, he began with this principle because his principle is azim. It is a principle that is tremendous. It is a principle that has been taught to us in the Kitab and taught to us in the Sunnah. The Imam, he goes on, he mentions the second principle, and he says, وَاقْتِدَاءُ بِهِمْ, and that we what? We imitate the Sahaba. That we are upon what they are upon, first and foremost, and that then we what? We imitate them. That we strive to be as they were. That we strive to be exactly like them, and that we imitate them. And this too is very important. The third, the Imam, he says, وَتَرْكُ الْبِدْعَةِ, and that we leave off innovation. That we leave off innovation. The fourth, the Imam, he says, وَكُلُّ بِدْعَةٍ فَهِيَ الضَّلَالَةِ, because every innovation, it is a misguidance. Every innovation, it is a misguidance. So beware of those individuals who will come to you and they will say that there exists inside of Islam a bid'ah that is hasanah. That there exists inside of Islam a bid'ah that is good. That there is a good bid'ah. There is no such thing as a good bid'ah. And anyone who says this, then he is one who has belied the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, فَإِنَّ كُلَّ بِدْعَةٍ ضَلَالَةٍ, verily every bid'ah is a misguidance. Every bid'ah, it is a misguidance. Not some bid'ah is a misguidance and other bid'ah is okay. La. Every bid'ah, it is a misguidance. And every misguidance, every dalalah is inside of the nar. Every dalalah is inside of the hellfire. So there's no such thing as a good bid'ah. Because when we mean bid'ah, we mean inside of the deen. There is no good bid'ah inside of the deen. Every bid'ah is a misguidance. Every bid'ah is a misguidance. So be warned, ya ibad. The fifth principle, which the Imam, he mentions, and this is what we want to look at, inshallah ta'ala, is he says, وَتَرْكُ الْخُصُمَاتِ وَالْجُلُوسِ مَعَ أَصْحَابِ الْأَهْوَاءِ. He says, and leaving off of arguing and sitting with the people of desires. And leaving off arguing and sitting with the people of desires. Meaning the people of bid'ah. This is extremely important. And you find as we go through this tremendous book, the Imam, he enumerated the principles in order of priority. So you find that which is most important, followed by that which is important, followed by that which follows it in importance. And you will find that not even a page into the book you find وَتَرْكُ الْخُصُمَاتِ وَالْجُلُوسِ مَعَ أَصْحَابِ الْأَهْوَاءِ, and leaving off arguing and sitting with the people of desires. Leaving off arguing and sitting with the people of desires. This is an extremely important issue from the issues and from the minhaj of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. This is an issue of extreme importance because its ramifications are tremendous. Its dangers are many. Its dangers are many and are totally destructive, and there contains no good in sitting with the people of innovation, no good with excessive arguing with the people of innovation. And inshallah ta'ala we will come to see. Because a lot of times when people hear things like about the warning about sitting with Ahlul Bidah and the like, one may think, well, this is the warning or the advice of the great Imams. Well, is there any textual proof from the Kitab and the Sunnah which points us to this understanding? And of course the proof is, bila shak, bala, of course there is a proof. Because Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we find the proof first, and then we take a belief. Ahlul Sunnah, we have the proof first, and then we take a belief. Whereas Ahlul Bidah, they are the opposite. They take beliefs, they adopt beliefs, and then they search and look for a proof. And these matters, when it comes to Aqidah and Manhaj and the like, are matters of what is called Tawqifiyya. These are matters that are Tawqifiyya. And Tawqifiyya comes from the word Waqafa, which means to stop. Waqafa, which means to stop. Why? Because one cannot have a belief in Allah Ta'ala until Allah Ta'ala informs him by way of his prophets and his messengers and by sending down books. Other than that, it's not possible to have information about Allah Ta'ala. Allah has to send down prophets and send down books to teach you how to properly believe in Allah Ta'ala. So once we have learned, then we act. Sami'na wa ata'na. We hear, we obey. Once we see the proof, then we take the belief. We do not take beliefs before we know the proofs and the evidences. So, with this being the case, ya ibad, no doubt about it, the Imam, when they made these statements, it was based upon their deep understanding of the textual proofs from the Kitab and the Sunnah about not sitting with the people of innovation. About not sitting with the people of innovation. From these proofs is Allah Ta'ala's statement that can be found in Surah Al-An'am, in his verse number 68. Again, that's Surah Al-An'am, in his verse number 68. Where Allah Ta'ala, He says, وَإِذَا رَأَيْتَ الَّذِينَ يَخُوضُونَ فِي آيَاتِنَا فَأَعْرِضْ عَنْهُمْ حَتَّى يَخُوضُوا فِي حَدِيثٍ غَيْرِهِ. Allah Ta'ala says what translated means, and if you see those ones who are falsely indulging and conversating about our verses, then turn away from them until they go into another type of speech, until they speak about something else. If you see those who are falsely speaking about our verses, giving to them misinterpretations, trying to change their meanings, trying to change their wordings, trying to belie what is contained therein, trying to negate what is contained therein and the like, then turn away from them. فَأَعْرِضْ عَنْهُمْ. Turn away from them until they speak about something else. Until their speech changes, meaning until their speech changes and they no longer speak with the likes of these things. Again, this is Surah An'am, verse 68. Allah Ta'ala, He also says in Surah An-Nisa, verse number 140. Allah Ta'ala, He says, وَقَدْ نَزَّلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الْكِتَابِ أَنْ إِذَا سَمِعْتُمْ آيَاتِ اللَّهِ يُكْفَرُ بِهَا وَيُسْتَهْزَأُ بِهَا فَلَا تَقْعُدُوا مَعَهُمْ حَتَّى يَخُوضُوا فِي حَدِيثٍ غَيْرِهِ إِنَّكُمْ إِذًا مِثْلُهُمْ. Allah Ta'ala says what translated means, and verily it has been revealed upon you in the book, or revealed upon you all inside of the book. وَقَدْ نَزَّلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الْكِتَابِ. Verily it has been revealed upon you all in the book, that if you hear the verses of Allah being disbelieved in and being made fun of, then do not sit with them until they speak about something else. And if you were to remain with them while they're doing this, إِنَّكُمْ إِذًا مِثْلُهُمْ. And if you were to remain and to sit with them while the verses of Allah are being belied and are being made fun of, then you will be just like them. Then you will be just like them. Now we reflect on that great tabi'i who went to that town, and the people were saying, so and so is he's such a good man, he's such a good this, such a good that, he's so good, he's so good. And then when he finally gazed eyes upon him, he asked the people, what is his madhab? What is his madhab? Meaning, what is his aqeedah? And they said, Ahlul Sunnah. He's from Ahlul Sunnah. He said, and who are those people around him? Who are those people who he's sitting with? Who are those people he constantly is in their company? Who are those people? What is their madhab? They said, they are Ahlul Qadr. They are from the Qadariyah. So then he said, well, then that person who you were speaking good about, he is not from the Sunnah. He's not from the people of the Sunnah. Rather, huwa Qadari. Even huwa al-Qadari. If the people he's around are Qadari, then he too is Qadari. This is where their understanding is from. Allah Ta'ala says, innakum even mithluhum. If you were to remain amongst them after that, then you will be from them. So this shows you the deep understanding that the Imam they had for the Kitab and the Sunnah. Likewise, a man came to Imam Ahmad, and he said to him, what do you say, or he asked rather about a person who sits with Ahl Bid'ah. He asked about an individual who sits with Ahl Bid'ah. So Imam Ahmad, he said, advise him, insahahu, give him advice. The man, he said, nasahtuhu, whatever. He said, I gave him advice, and he has refused my advice. He has refused to stop sitting with the people of innovation. Imam Ahmad, he said, then consider him to be from the people of innovation. If he has refused to stop sitting with the people of innovation, then consider him to be one of them. One of the people of innovation, one of the innovators. Where is that understanding from, ya ibad? This ayah, إِنَّكُمْ إِذٍ مِثْلُهُمْ. If you were to remain sitting with them, then you will be just like them. Surah An-Nisa, verse 140. يدخل في هذه الآية كل محدث في الدين وكل مبتدع. He said that enters into this ayah, or this ayah is applicable for every innovation in the religion and for every innovator. For every innovation inside of the religion and for every single innovator. This ayah applies to them, those who belie and make fun of the ayat of Allah Ta'ala. And one may say, what mubtadi' belies the ayat of Allah? Give to us an example. An example, barakallahu feekum, is like if you were to ask the mubtadi', Ain Allah? If you were asked the mubtadi', where is Allah? وَيَعَذَ بِاللَّهِ, they will tell to you, فِي كُلِّ مَكَانٍ وَيَعَذَ بِاللَّهِ. They will say in every place. Allah is everywhere. He's in every place. And this is the most worst type of kufr. This type of kufr that they have in this belief that Allah is everywhere, this is worse than the kufr of the Jews and the Christians. Now, because the Christians, they say that Allah is inside of one human being, Isa. The Jews, they say Allah is inside of one human being, Uzair. But these despicable individuals, and bila shak, they're all despicable. The ones who say Allah is in anything is despicable. But these individuals are the epitome of this horrid thing when they say that Allah is inside of every single, not human being, but every single thing. Every single thing. Every animal, every stone, every human being, everything. In everything and everywhere. This is the worst form of kufr. It exceeds the kufr. It exceeds the disbelief of the Hindu. It exceeds the disbelief of the Buddhist. It exceeds the disbelief of the Rastafarian. It exceeds the disbelief of the nation of Islam. It exceeds the disbelief of the 5% nation, and so on and so forth. Because in every one of these kuffar groups, they attribute Allah being inside of a set number. Whereas these ones, they say that Allah is everywhere and inside of everything. And from those proponents of this false and wicked and kufr, disbelieving type of belief, was Sayyid Qutb. So be warned, there's no good about this individual, so his books need not be read yet, ya ibadallah. The point is the shahid. One may say, how is this a belying of any type of ayah? It is belying all of the ayat inside of the Qur'an, which points to the ulu of Allah Ta'ala. It is like the ayah where Allah Ta'ala says, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arush istawa. Allah Ta'ala informs us where He is at. He does not say He is everywhere, but rather He says that Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, He is above His throne. The most merciful, He is above His throne. So now who will have the audacity, after reading and knowing about this ayah, to say that Allah is everywhere, when Allah Ta'ala has affirmed the fact that He is above His throne? This is how Ahlul Bid'ah, they belie the ayat of Allah Ta'ala. They make fun of the ayat of Allah Ta'ala. This is how this ayah is applicable to every mubtadi'. And this is with consensus of the scholars of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So be warned, ya ibad. Be warned, ya ibad. And stay far away from sitting with the likes of these individuals. Because bila shak, you will be affected and you will be harmed by them. The Prophet ﷺ, he illustrates to us in his tremendous hadith how one will be harmed, although he may consider himself to be strong, he may consider himself to be capable, how he still will be harmed just by being in the presence of the likes of these individuals. And this can be found in a hadith that's collected by Imam Ahmad and Abu Dawood and other than him. And the hadith has been rendered authentic by Imam al-Bani, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Man sami'a bid-Dajjal فَلْيَنْأَ عَنْهُ. He said, whoever hears about the Dajjal, then he should go far away from him. ابتعد عنه. Go far away from him. يَلَّنْ عَنْهُ مَسْتَطَعُ. He said, then go far away from him as much as you possibly can. Go as far as you possibly can go away from the Dajjal. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَإِنَّ الرَّجُلِ, because verily a man, يَأْتِيهِ وَهُوَ يَحْسَبُ أَنَّهُ مُؤْمِنٌ. A man will go to the Dajjal and he would consider himself to be a mu'min, a believer, strong, firm. He would consider himself to be secure. He just wants to go and see what's going on, see for himself. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَمَا يَزَالُ بِهِ حَتَّى يَتْبَعَهُ لِمَا يَرَى مَعَهُ مِنَ الشُّبُهَاتِ. He said that he will remain with him until he will end up becoming a follower of the Dajjal, because of what he will see from the Dajjal, from all of these shubuhat, from all of these misconceptions and the like. He will end up following the Dajjal. What got this man in trouble is that he mixed and he went and he sat with the Dajjal. This was enough to take him out, to take him away, to lead him astray. So be warned, ya ibad. There is no good when you sit with Ahlul Bid'ah. You will be harmed. There is no doubt about it. You will be harmed. Ibn Battah, he brings a narration from Mus'ad bin Sa'd, where he said, rahimahullah ta'ala, La tujalis maftunan. Do not sit with the one who is afflicted with a fitna, yani. He's afflicted with a calamity, meaning the calamity of bid'ah. Do not sit with the mubtadi'. He said, فَإِنَّهُ لَنْ يُخْطِئَكَ مِنْهُ إِلَّا اثْنَتَيْنِ. He said, because you will not leave from him except that he will harm you in one or two ways. Except he will harm you in one or two ways. Again, this is a statement of Sa'd, the statement of Mus'ad bin Sa'd. This is a statement of Mus'ad bin Sa'd. And Ibn Battah, he has narrated it, where he said, do not sit with the mubtadi', the one afflicted with the calamity, because verily he would harm you from one of two ways. He will harm you from one of two ways. The first way, he said, إِمَّا أَنْ يَفْتِنَكَ فَتُتَابِعَهُ. He said he would place upon you a calamity. He will afflict you with the same thing which he is afflicted with. So then you would follow him. Meaning you will come a mubtadi' like he is a mubtadi'. This is the first way in which he may harm you. Or the second way, يُؤْذِيَكَ قَبْلَ أَن تُفَارِقَهُ. Or he will harm you before you leave, before you separate from him. Before he leaves, he will harm you. Meaning, he will harm you if he sees that you will not change. If he sees that you will not come to his bid'ah, then he will harm you. Either verbally harm you or physically harm you. Either he will harm you verbally or he will harm you physically. So be warned, ya ibad. And this brings a very important point. Like Shaykh Ubayd al-Mujabri, he says, the Ahl al-Bid'ah, whenever they work with a Salafi, they do not do it except that they only intend it to be something that is temporary. They only intend it to be temporary. When they allow you to come to their masjid and to set up a conference in their masjid. Now we have bigger space. You come do conference here. When they allow you to work inside of their schools. When they hire you as teachers inside of their schools. When they allow your children to come to their schools. When they allow you to do conferences in their schools. They only do this to use you. They only do this to use you, hoping and tolerating you for a time period, hoping that you will come to their bid'ah, hoping that you will be like them, hoping that you will change, hoping that they can influence you, hoping that they can teach you. This is what they intend. Or they intend to use you financially. Yes, you Salafy, come, that's fine. Bring more Salafis like you. You bring your kid, let your kid enroll. Tell your friends, because they'll bring their kids, let all the Salafi kids enroll. Because what? We have the upper hand anyway. We're not worried about you, and we're not worried about nothing you have to say. But you give us your money, you give us your dollars, you give us your enrollment, and like that. You want to do comments in our masjid? Fine, do comments in our masjid. But you make sure everybody put some money inside that box. Encourage people, give sadaqah, na'am. Give sadaqah, put money in the Hizbi box so the Hizbi do what Hizbi do. La ya ibad. This is not correct. This is not from our da'wah. This is not from a da'wah to Salafiyya. This is the reality. As Shaykh Ubaidi points out, this is not our way. And when they do this, it's not because they want Sunnah. It's not because they love the Sunnah. They do this because they want to use you. They want to get over on you. So be warned, ya ibad. Be warned from their tricks. Because the reality is what? Is that if they really realize that you will not change, then they will get rid of you. They will kick you out. They might beat you up. They will begin to speak bad about you. This is the reality, ya ibad. Do not be fooled. And if you are from those who are sitting and doing conferences and doing lectures and cooperating with Ahlul Bid'ah, and we know this is something that is haram, go through and do a Google, you will find the statements of the Mashayikh where they say it is haram to cooperate when it comes to the mubtadi' inside of da'wah. It is haram to cooperate with them when it comes to the da'wah. But if you are an individual who claims Salafiyya, and you're cooperating in the da'wah, and they are allowing you to come time and time again and do conference, time and time again to do lecture, time and time again to do, then know for a certainty that there's something wrong with you, that you are not doing what is correct. Because if you are doing what is correct, then they will listen 1, 2, 3 times and kick you out. This is the reality. Shaykh Rabi', Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he tells a story of a young man. He was in a masjid and he used to always give nice maw'idah. He would give nice talk to the people after the salah. And he would speak about how khamr is haram, and speak about how women should wear hijab, and how men should grow beards, and things like this. So Shaykh Rabi', he sat one day at the salah, and the young man, he was Salafi, alhamdulillah, but he sat there and he listened to the man's talk. So when the people left, he grabbed the man and he said, listen, you're speaking to these people about this, that, and the third, and this is a good things, mashallah. These are good subjects. He said, but there are subjects that are more important. And do you know that these people that you're speaking to, they don't even know about Tawheed? These people that you're speaking to about these things, they don't know Tawheed. You should go to the people and give them what comes first. You should prioritize in your da'wah. The Shaykh is teaching this young man, giving him advice, giving him guidelines and guidance, teaching him. So the man took the Shaykh's advice. He came back the next day, and he had a huge gathering. People love that stuff. Yeah, talk about beard, talk about khimar, talk about tazkiyah, talk about family issues, talk about whatever. They like that. Because it doesn't rub no one the wrong way. So he comes and he starts speaking about Tawheed. The next day he comes back, his gathering is smaller. The next day he comes back, the gathering is smaller. Until the day came when the people rose up against him, grabbed him, beat him up, and threw him out the masjid. So he came back to the Shaykh. He came back to Shaykh Rabi'. And he said, Shaykh, the first day, it went like this. It was a lot of people. The second day, it was less. The third day, it was less. Until, he said, oh Shaykh, they beat me up and they threw me out the masjid. The Shaykh, he said, Naam. He said, now you're following the way of the prophets and the messengers. Naam, ya ibad. If you're teaching those who oppose the truth correctly, they will get rid of you. They will kick you out. They might beat you up. They will not tolerate you. But if you're sitting there time and time again, and they love you, they keep inviting you back, they want you there, it is because no doubt about it, something is wrong with you. You are not speaking to them the way in which they should be spoken to. You are not making the truth clear to them. Even if you're talking about at Tawheed, this man, he got beat up, he got thrown out because he was teaching them Tawheed. So you dare you come to me and you say, but we teach them Tawheed, this is why they like us, and don't rub nobody the wrong way. Yes, it rubs people the wrong way. When you have these Sufis, when you have these grave worshipping people, and you tell them it's not permissible to make istighatha to those dead in the grave, it's not permissible to visit the grave, this is not what Islam teaches, it is not permissible to be praying and making dua to a wali, it's not permissible to be slaughtering to a wali, if you say to them these words, they will have enmity and hatred for you, the same way they have enmity and hatred for Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, the same way they have enmity and hatred for Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, the same way they have enmity and hatred for Ahmed and Muhammad. They say they have enmity and hatred for Sheikh Rabi', for Sheikh Salih Fawzan, for Sheikh Rubayn al-Jabri, so on and so forth. They hate them, Sheikh, but they love you. That's because you are like them. It's not that they are changing. So be warned, ya ibad. Do not fall victim to the likes of this, ya ibad. The reality is what? As Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, he said, لا تجالس أهل الأهواء فإن مجالستهم ممرضة للقلوب. He said, do not sit with the people of desires, because verily sitting with them, it is sickness, it is disease for the hearts. ممرضة للقلوب, it is disease for the hearts. And Fudayl ibn Iyad, he said, لا تجلس مع صاحب البدعة فإنني أخاف أن تنزل عليك اللعنة. He said, do not sit with the innovator, because verily I fear that there will come upon you the curse of Allah. This is the reality, ya ibad. There's no good in sitting with them. There's no benefit in sitting with them. From that which points to the fact that there is no good and no benefit in sitting with them is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that has been collected by Bukhari wa Muslim, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, إِنَّمَا مَثَلُ جَلِيسٌ صَالِحٌ وَجَلِيسُ السُّوء كَحَامِلِ الْمِسْكِ وَالنَّافِخِ الْكِيرِ. He said, verily the likeness and the similitude of the righteous sitting and the sitting and the evil sitting is like the merchant of perfume and the ironsmith. He said, فَحَامِلُ الْمِسْكِ. So with regards to the merchant of perfume, إِمَّا أَنْ يُحْذِيَكَ. He said, maybe, or either he will give you a present. He will give you a sample of these fine oils and perfumes. He might give you a present, a little bottle that you may take home with you. Or he may put some on you. وَإِمَّا أَنْ تَبَتَاعَ مِنْهُ. He said, or maybe you can request to purchase some perfumes from him. وَإِمَّا أَنْ يَجِدَ مِنْهُ رِيحًا طَيِّبًا. Or you may find from him a pleasant smell. All of these scenarios are good. Either he will give you a gift, some oils, or he will put some on you, or give you a bottle so you may take home with you. Or you may request to buy something from him, or you will find from him a good smell. All of these are good. And this is the similitude of sitting with the people of the Sunnah, the righteous sitting, the people of the Sunnah. Because bila shak, no doubt about it, the ulama with consensus, they agree that the people of bid'ah, they are worse than the fusaq. They are worse than the criminals. They are worse than the sinning Muslims. So if I ask you now, will you sit in a masjid that was occupied by Muslim homosexuals and lesbians? Will you be around them? Will you have a conference in their masjid? Would you set up shop in their masjid? Would you cooperate with them? You will say no. No way. Would you set up shop in a masjid where everyone he stole, everyone he robbed and he killed? You will say no. No way. Well, don't you know, ya ibad, that bid'ah is worse than ma'asiyah? Don't you know, ya ibad, that bid'ah, it is worse than sin? That bid'ah is more beloved to shaitan than ma'asiyah? That bid'ah is more beloved to a shaitan than ma'asiyah, than sin? Why? Because a person, he can make tawbah from the sin. Because he's doing a sin and he knows it's wrong. So inshallah he will make tawbah. Whereas the bid'ah, a person, he does the bid'ah thinking that it is correct, thinking that it is guidance, thinking that it is okay. So therefore, he will never want to make tawbah. He will never think he should make tawbah from it because he think it is good, it is righteous. Likewise, even if a person learns that the bid'ah is bad and he himself leaves the bid'ah, you will find others still doing that bid'ah. And a perfect example of this is the example of the Imam Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari, the founder of the Ash'ari sect. He himself made tawbah. He himself came back to the way of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He wrote a beautiful book where he refuted the Ash'ari madhab from the beginning to the end. He refuted the sect from the beginning to the end. Every point he refuted the sect. He wrote the book and he died upon that. But yet to this day, although their founder made tawbah and he came back to the Sunnah, you still have present Ash'ari. You still have them present. One just needs to look to Azhar inside of Egypt and he'll find the Ash'ari. And likewise, one needs to look like in the places of Syria and the like, and he'll find the Ash'ari. So even though the founder made tawbah, others have still upon the bid'ah. And this is why the bid'ah is more beloved to shaitan. This is why the bid'ah is dangerous and is worse than ma'asiyah. But yet we won't sit with the likes of these criminals, but we'll sit with the people of bid'ah, and bid'ah is worse than ma'asiyah. La ya ibad. This is not the way we are to be. So you find that when it comes to the righteous sitting, every scenario is good. And likewise, when it comes to the evil sitting, every scenario is bad. There is no good scenario. Someone can't come and say, we'll sit with Ahlul Bid'ah and then we're going to get some good from it. La, it's no good to be gained. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, وَنَافِخُ الْكِيرِ إِمَّا أَن يُحْرِقَ ثِيَابَكَ وَإِمَّا أَن تَجِدَ مِنْهُ رِيحًا مُنْتِنَةً. He said, either you will, or either the ironsmith, like the evil sitting, either he will burn your thawb, or you will find from him a despicable odor, or you will find from him a despicable smell. So every scenario is bad when it comes to the ironsmith. Either he will burn your thawb, or you will find from him a despicable odor. Shaykh Rabi', Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he says a despicable odor, meaning you will find from him toxic fumes and that which will cause all types of sicknesses like cancer and all types of different ailments. This is what you will find from him. Na'am, either he will burn your thawb, or you'll take in all these fumes that may cause and lead to cancer and all these sicknesses and the like. So there is no good to be gained. And this is like the sitting with the people of innovation. There is no good to be gained. There is no good to be gained. So you find this is another proof from the Kitab and the Sunnah, where the Prophet ﷺ, he's informing us that we are to be very selective when it comes to those individuals whom we sit with. That we are to be very selective when it comes to those people that we accompany. And that we are only to accompany ourselves with those who are righteous. We are only to befriend those who are righteous, and we should avoid all those who are evil, all those who are upon other than that which the Prophet ﷺ was upon. The Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith that has been collected by Abu Dawood, لا تصاحب إلا مؤمنا ولا يأكل طعامك إلا تقي. Prophet ﷺ, he said, do not befriend except a true believer, and do not let anyone eat your food except that he is righteous. This is what? Encouraging us to be selective. Do not befriend except one who is a true mu'min. A true mu'min, truly believing and implementing that which the Prophet ﷺ he came with. Not one who is making deviations, not one who is adding to, subtracting to, and the like. Not one who brings bid'ah, but one who truly is following that which the Prophet ﷺ he came with. A true mu'min. And do not let anyone eat your food except that he is righteous. This is another hadith which points us to the fact that we are to be very selective in who we befriend, who we be around. Also, there's a hadith that has been collected by Tirmidhi, and the hadith is well known, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, الرجل على دين خليله فلينظر أحدكم من يخالل. Prophet ﷺ, he said that a man is on the religion of his friend, so that each of you look carefully to the one whom he has taken as a friend. The man, he is on the religion of his friend. So look, each of you carefully to the one whom he takes as a friend. This is the haqq. That we befriend those people from Ahlul Bid'ah, and we sit and we are always with them, then we will be opening up ourselves to this life of harm, ya ibad. Because the reality is that if this is possible, if you find your souls are so inclined, it is because they are similar. It is because they are similar. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, and Shaykh Rabi', he said that this, for the one who sits with Ahlul Bid'ah, he said this following, or this coming hadith, inshallah ta'ala, this is proof enough which points that that person is sick, that that person has in his heart some sickness, he has some disease inside of his soul. He said, and this is a statement of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said, Al-arwahu junudun mujannadatun فما تعارف منها اتلف وما تناكر اختلف. Prophet, he said that the souls are like enlisted soldiers. The souls, they are like enlisted soldiers. He says, and for those souls who got along, then they would join with each other. From those souls who got along and they were inclined, then they would join with each other. Meaning that before we were put into body inside of this dunya, our souls, they met in the heavens. They met in the heavens. And those souls who were inclined to one another, then they inclined to one another. Whereas those souls who were repelled by one another, then they repelled by one another. Meaning that those souls that inclined in the heavens, then they will too be inclined in the earth. And then those who were repelled from one another in the heavens, and they too will be repelled from one another inside of the earth. So if you are in this dunya and you find yourself content, you find yourself complacent, you find the cooling of your eye and ease of your heart by being with the people of Ahlul Bid'ah, then this is a proof that you are sick, that your soul is sick, because you are like souls. You are so inclined to be with these individuals of Bid'ah, then you are sick. And if you find that you are repelled by them and them of you, then this is a good sign. This is a sign that you are healthy, that your soul is in good shape. So be warned, ya ibad. Be warned, because sitting with them leads to having affection for them. Sitting with them leads to having some type of love for them. And the Prophet ﷺ, he has informed us of the end result for those people who take to the bid'ah, those Muslims who take to the bid'ah. The Prophet ﷺ, he has informed us, كلها في النار, that all of these 72 sects will be inside of the hellfire. All these 72 sects of Muslims who take to the bid'ah, they will be inside of hell for a period of time. And they will have to be cleansed by the fires of hell from their bid'ah. And then they will leave the hellfire and go to Jannah. Because no Muslim will be in hell forever. But bid'ah is such a sin that a person has to go to the hellfire to get it cleansed. He's under threat of going to the hellfire to get his bid'ah cleansed from him before he can go to Jannah. So bid'ah is a serious thing, ya ibad. It's a serious issue. It's a serious issue. The one is under severe threat of going to the hellfire because of bid'ah. So you don't want to be inclined to a person who's from the people of bid'ah. Because the Prophet ﷺ said in authentic hadith, Al-mar'u ma'a man ahabba, that an individual, he will be with the one who he loves. An individual, he will be with the one who he loves. So if you love the mubtadi', then the Prophet ﷺ has informed us that you're going to be with him. You're going to be with him in the akhirah. Why? Because those who are alike, like each other. This is the reality, ya ibad. Those who are alike, like each other. الرَّجُلُ عَلَى الدِّينِ خَلِيلِهِ. A man is on the deen of his friend. So be warned, ya ibad. Be warned, ya ibad. Be warned, ya ibad. And inshallah ta'ala, I would like to end with a tremendous piece of advice that, again, Ibn Battah, he brings aside Al-Ibanat al-Kubra on the authority of Ayyub السختياني, where he said, قال لي Abu Khilaba, he said, Abu Khilaba, he gave me advice. And he said, Ya Ayyub, O Ayyub, احفظ عني أربعة. He said, O Ayyub, memorize from me four. Memorize from me four things. The first one, he said, لا تقول في القرآن برأيك. He said, O Ayyub, do not speak about the Qur'an from your own opinion. Do not speak about the Qur'an from your own opinion. So the first advice is what? Do not speak about the Qur'an from your own opinion. The second, he says, وَإِيَّاكَ وَالْقَدَرِ, and beware of believing incorrectly in qadar. Beware of believing incorrectly in qadar, either by denying it, like the Qadariyah, or by going to the extremes and saying that you are forced and you have no free will, like the Jabriya, do not go to this extreme nor to that extreme. The third, he said, إِذَا ذُكِرَ أَصْحَابُ مُحَمَّدٍ صلى الله عليه وسلم أَمْسِكْ. When the companions of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم are mentioned, then withhold. Meaning, do not speak bad about them. Do not speak bad about them. The fourth, he said, لا تمكن أهل الأهواء من سمعك فلينبذ فيه ما شاء. He said, do not give the people of desires your ear, because they will place in it what they want. Do not give the people of desires your ear, because they will place in it what they want. So be warned, ya ibad, from the likes of these individuals. Be warned from the likes of these individuals, because they will put in your ear that which would ultimately destroy you. So be warned, and let them be warned. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, يَكُونُ أُنَاسٍ فِي أُمَّتِي يَأْتُونَكُمْ بِمَا لَمْ تَعْلَمُوا أَنْتُمْ وَلَا أَبَاؤُكُمْ فَإِيَّاكُمْ وَإِيَّاهُمْ. The Prophet ﷺ, he said in authentic hadith that's collected by Muslim, there will come a people from my nation, and they will come to you with that which you do not know, nor did your forefathers before you know. So therefore, you need to beware of them, and they need to beware of this bid'ah which they come with. نكتفي بهذا القدر وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.